Hi, and welcome to this AI and C# video on the Microsoft Agent Framework. Today we're going to look at controlling the reasoning effort on reasoning models like, for example, ChatGPT 5. So in order to see this best, the best way is to see the difference. So I'm going to quickly set this up so we can run this sample, which is in my sample repo that you can get for free on GitHub. So I'm just gonna get my configuration, and what I'm gonna do here as well is in my OpenAI client here, or the Azure OpenAI client if that's what you're using, I'm also setting the network timeout. You might not need this, but of course, if you have a reasoning model and you give it a very, very hard question, it can take multiple minutes to actually get an answer. So I just included this for the sake of how you do it. You simply just new up, and then there's extra options where you can set the network timeout. So fairly simple to do. But why do we need it? Well, if we, for example, go in and use ChatGPT 5 mini here, and we use it without any extra configuration, and ask what is the capital of France and how many people live there. If we do that, it will take a little while to come back because ChatGPT 5 is a reasoning model, and the default, if you don't set anything, against many people's belief, is that it's set to medium. There's low, high, medium, and then there's something called minimal, which is the lowest of them all. But right now we have used medium, which means when I write out this answer and show the token count, we can see that we used 19 tokens for input, but 623 for output, and 512 of these for reasoning. And reasoning is good if you have a very hard question, but if it's an easy question, then it's not smart to just use reasoning. That's the reason why ChatGPT 5, if you give it an easy question, it can answer quickly, but if you give it a hard question, it takes longer. And that's because it's turning on and off the reasoning. For the APIs, you can't do that. It doesn't happen automatically. So you are in control. But if you just don't care and just run the models, you are actually using the medium reasoning capability. And that might not be what you want. Because first of all, it takes longer to give an answer. And second, every token counts. So you're spending more money on some easy questions. So let's see how we can control this. And this is unfortunately quite cumbersome in my mind here. Because what we do is we make our agent, but then we need to give our options to that, where we need to give a chat client agent options, and inside that we need to give chat options. And in that we give a new option where we set this raw representation factory, which can finally set the reasoning effort level to, in my case, minimum. But we have the options of minimum, low, medium, which is the default, or high. And this is for specific for OpenAI and Azure OpenAI. Other models like Claude and Gemini does it in completely different ways. So what I'm showing is something that only works with Azure OpenAI now, and you need to go in and check the documentation of the other models on how you set that for their reasoning effort. So if we do this, we can actually get a response. And in my case, I've set it to minimal, which is a new effort they recently introduced because of this problem of everyone is going to ChatGPT 5, but they also need it for simple answers back. And for that, minimal is the best for a reasoning model. So if we ask exactly the same question, first of all, we should get our answer back faster. Roughly the same answer, but you can see it. The output tokens are now 64 and 0 was used for reasoning. And that, of course, is much cheaper and much faster compared to up here. And then you need, of course, to begin to evaluate, is this answer better because we were thinking than this answer? And that's not the point here. You need to, in more real scenarios, if you need reasoning or not. So you definitely need this if you want to do ChatGPT 5 and do some simple stuff. And you definitely need this if you need to set it up to, for example, high and use even more tokens because it's a very advanced thing like code reviews or something that is more advanced. As I mentioned, this is Comparson. I have actually asked the Agent Framework team about if they want to do something more about this. And right now the answer is no. This is the way you do it. And the reason for it is that all the different models do it in different ways, and they don't really want to settle in on one specific way with a string here, or because others need to say max allowed tokens and stuff like that. So right now they have said, we're not going to fix it, change it. Again, there's nothing wrong. It's just cumbersome. So this is what we need to live with. And of course, what I have done in my case is I have extracted this away because I'm beginning to find more and more things that are not strange, but cumbersome with the Create AI agent. There's multiple ways of doing it and stuff like that. So I have made my own Create AI engine for Azure OpenAI and for OpenAI. And these are in the repo as well if you want to copy them. And at some point I might release them as a NuGet package. But they're down here in my extensions, and what I have made is just a copy of them with a new name. And here I'm putting in the reasoning effort, so we can abstract this away. And I also fixed that there is actually a bug in the current one. If you set both reasoning and tools at the same time, this is fixing that as well. So annoying we need to have this, but I understand the team needs to be generic and work with every single AI model out there, while I can make these for Azure AI and OpenAI, which works the same. So in my case here, I can then, and this is what I'm going to do in my code, is I'm going to use these new overloads of Create AI agents in order to get something simple as this, and it will give exactly the same answer as this one up here. So all, of course, depending on what you want to do, you use yours, but just be aware that if you use it raw, it is a bit extra to write in here in order to do it. So do some kind of abstraction away from it, make a helper method, extension method in my mind. But that's everything there is to reasoning. The most important thing is, of course, that you remember that any reasoning model by default is medium. And if you don't do anything about this, this will cost your users a lot of time and you a lot of money based on the tokens if you don't are aware of it at least. So with that, thank you. See you in the next one.